tempo and the time. Come on, y'all, let's roll.
And now, Tempo and the Times, the podcast that examines the collision of news, popular culture, and technology. With your hosts, Bob Gaddy and Scott Ramager.
Hi, this is Scott Ramager. I'm here with my co-host, Bob Gaddy. And this week we are going to feature part 2 of our interview with Daryl Davis. Daryl is a very fine blues and boogie-woogie piano player. Last week we talked about all the different folks he'd played with and what he'd been up to in his career musically. This week we are going to delve into how Daryl became friends with some Klansmen, members of the KKK, and ultimately got some of them to relinquish their robes.
Okay, well, to understand that, we got to go back a little bit further, back to when I was age 10. Now, even before that, my first exposure to school was overseas. And as I explained earlier, my parents were U.S. Foreign Service. So we had traveled abroad on assignment with the American, I grew up as an American Embassy brat.
All right. So you had I didn't understand that. You really had a pretty sophisticated worldview by the time you got into high school.
Precisely. I'm from Chicago originally, and my parents are from Virginia. So anyway, my first exposure to school was overseas. My classmates in kindergarten, first grade, they were from all over the world. Nigeria, Italy, Japan, France, Germany, whoever had an embassy in those countries, all of their kids went to the same school. If you were to open the door to my classroom and stick your head in, you would say, this looks like the United Nations of little kids, because that's exactly what it was. So that being my first exposure to school, that was my norm. That was my baseline, all right? But every time I come home, back here to my own country, the United States, I would either be in all black schools or black and white schools, meaning the still segregated or the newly integrated, right? Even though desegregation was passed in 1954, 4 years before I was born, it didn't happen overnight, right? It took years and years. So anyway, I didn't understand all this crap, when I'd come home. Well, at age 10, I joined the Cub Scouts back home here, and we had a parade, and I was the only black Cub Scout participating. And the sidewalks were lined with nothing but white people. They were waving and cheering and having a good old time. And we got to a certain point in this parade route when suddenly I began getting hit with bottles and soda pop cans and small rocks and just, debris from the street by just a small group of spectators, white spectators off to my right on the sidewalk. I would say there were probably maybe 4, no more than 5 people, a couple of kids, maybe a year or two older than me, and a couple of adults who were throwing things. So I assumed it was kids and their parents. And anyway, my first inclination was those people over there don't like the Scouts. That's how naive I was. I didn't realize I was the only Scout getting hit until my Cub Scout leaders, my den mother, my Cub master, my troop leader, all came running, these adults, white adults, and huddled over me with their bodies and escorted me out of the danger. And I realized nobody else is getting this protection. So now I'm confused. What had I done? What had I done to those people to cause them to try to hurt me? I didn't say anything to them. And I kept asking my Scout leaders, I didn't do anything. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? I'm trying to figure out what I had caused the problem. And they didn't answer the question. They shushed me and rushed me along. And at the end of the day, at the end of the parade, I went back home, and my parents were putting Band-Aids on me and cleaning me up and asking me, how did I fall down and get all scraped up? And I explained to them, I didn't fall down and get all scraped up. People were throwing things at me. And for the first time in my life, I'm age 10, my mom and dad sat me down and explained to me what racism was. Now, believe it or not, at the age of 10, I had never heard the word racism. I had no clue what they were talking about.
And your parents, did they go to college? Were they college?
Yeah, absolutely. They both had master's degrees. My dad worked on his PhD before he passed. Yeah, they both had master's degrees, okay? I had no idea what they're talking about because racism did not exist in my sphere. I got along with people from all over the world, all over the world. So this racism thing was something my 10-year-old brain could not process it. And therefore, I did not believe my parents. I didn't believe they were telling me the truth for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And so, because the people who were doing this to me looked just like my friends right here in school, or my American friends overseas, or my little French or German or Swedish friends overseas. So it couldn't be because of my skin color. That doesn't make any sense. People don't do things like that. I'm trying to rationalize it. Well, you cannot rationalize racism. There is no rationale to it, right? And here I am trying to give some logic to it. So anyway, I didn't believe my parents. This was like around March of 1968. I was age 10. And about a month and a half so later, April 4th, that same year, Martin Luther King was assassinated. And every major town in this country burned to the ground. Nashville, New Orleans, New York, my hometown, Chicago, right here where I am now, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, all burned to the ground in the name of this new word I had learned, a month back called racism. So now I understood that this thing my parents told me about does exist. My parents had not lied to me, but I didn't understand why. Why are people racist? So I formed a question at that age, which was, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? And I've been looking for the answer to that question. Okay, now, skipping ahead to your question. So I'm back playing in these country bands after I graduated college, right? And we're playing at a place called the Silver Dollar Lounge in a town called Frederick, Maryland, about an hour and 20 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. Yeah. All right? And the Silver Dollar Lounge was what was known as an all-white lounge. And by all white, I don't mean that. It was like the country store in Southern Maryland, okay?
No one said anything. There was no sign. There was just...
Exactly, just understood.
Well known that a black person was not welcome in there. And they would hate to understand that if they came in.
And if you go somewhere where, number one, you're not welcome, and number two, alcohol is being served, it's not a good combination, right? So here I am in the Silver Dollar Lounge, only black person in the whole place. And I came off the bandstand on break after the first set, and I felt somebody come up behind me and put their arm around my shoulder. Now, I don't know anybody in this joint, and I see the whole band in front of me walking towards the band table. So I'm turning around to see who's touching me. And it was this white guy, about 15, 18 years older than me, big smile on his face. And he says, "Man, I sure like your piano playing." I said, "Thank you." I shook his hand. He was very friendly. And then he says, "This is the first time I ever heard a black man play piano like Jerry Lee Lewis." And now I was not offended, but I was rather surprised that, given his age being older than me, that he did not know the black origin of Jerry Lee Lewis's.
Right, because he got it from the black guys.
Exactly. From Pine Top, for one. And
exactly.
And anyway, I wasn't trying to be facetious, but I said, "Where do you think Jerry Lee Lewis learned how to play?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "He learned it from the same people I did, from black, blues, and boogie woogie piano." "Oh, no. No, man. I ain't never heard no black man play piano except for you, like Jerry Lee Lewis." So I'm thinking, okay, well, the dude never heard Fast Domino or Little Richard, right? Yeah. And so I said, "Look, man, I know Jerry Lee Lewis. He's a very good friend of mine. He's told me himself where he learned how to play." The guy didn't believe I knew Jerry Lee. But he was so fascinated with me, he wanted me to come back to his table and let him buy me a drink. Now, I don't drink alcohol, but I went back to his table. I had a cranberry juice. He took his glass, he clinks my glass and cheers me. And then he says, you know, this is the first time I ever sat down and had a drink with a black man. And now I'm totally mystified. Like, how can this be? Because at that point in my life, I had sat down literally with thousands of white people or anybody else and had a meal, a beverage, a conversation. And this guy had never done that. And I know there are black people in Frederick. I know that for a fact because I've seen them. So how does he, miss them all and never have that opportunity? So innocently and naively, I said, why? And he looked down at the table and didn't answer me. And I asked him again. And his buddy sitting next to him elbowed him and said, tell him, tell him, tell him. And I said, tell me, because now I'm mystified. And he says, I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Well, I burst out laughing. I know a lot about the Klan, a whole lot. And they don't just come up and hug a black guy and want to buy him a drink and
right.
No,
They like to burn crosses in black people.
Exactly.
And shit like that.
I think the guy's joking with me, and I'm laughing. And he goes inside his pocket, pulls out his wallet, flips through it, and hands me his Klan membership card. I look at this thing, and I recognize the Ku Klux Klan insignia, which is a red circle with a white cross and a red blood drop in the center of the cross. So, whoa, this thing is for real. So I stopped laughing because it wasn't funny then, right? And I give it back to him, and we talked about the Klan and some other things, and he was very friendly. He gave me his phone number, wanted me to call him whenever I was to return to this bar with this band, because he wanted to bring his friends, with the pointed hats and to see this black guy who plays like Jerry Lee. So I'd call him every 6 weeks. He'd come, he'd bring Klansmen and Klanswomen, and they would gather around the bandstand and watch me play with the band. Then they'd get out on the dance floor and dance. And on the breaks, I'd make my way over to his table, say hello. Some of them were curious about me, and they hung there, wanted to meet me and talk to me. Others would see me coming, and Klansmen and Klanswomen, and they'd get up and scurry across the room to some other place. It was like, we want to look at you. We don't want to touch you or talk to you. Which was fine.
Like you're in the zoo or something.
Exactly. I'm an oddity. So anyway, this went on for a while. And then I quit that band and went back to playing rock and roll and blues. And a long time later, it dawned on me, Daryl, the answer to your question, how can you hate me when you don't even know me, that's been plaguing you since the age of 10, fell right into your lap and you didn't even realize it. Who better to ask that question of than someone who would go so far as to join an organization with over 100-year history of practicing hating people who don't look like them, who don't believe as they believe. Get back in contact with that guy and have him fix you up with the Grand Dragon for the state of Maryland. Grand Dragon means state leader. Imperial Wizard means national leader.
Okay.
Right? So have him fix you up with the Grand Dragon for the state of Maryland, interview the guy, write a book, because all the books that I have on the Klan are written by white authors. There are no books written on the Klan by black authors. Mine would become the first one, all right, from the perspective of in-person interviews, face-to-face.
And did you have any interest in writing before you chose to write that book, or was it just motivated by that desire to find?
I've always written papers and things like that.
Right.
But I thought I would write an article, is what I started out to do. I'm going to interview this Grand Dragon and write an article and see if I can get it published in Life magazine or Reader's Digest or something like that. That was just my goal. And so long story short, I interviewed the Grand Dragon, but he gave me too much information for an article, but not enough for a book.
Right.
So I began interviewing other Klan leaders, Grand Dragons, Imperial Wizards, Exalted Cyclopses, Great Titans, and just regular members. And I traveled around the country, up north, down south, Midwest, West, interviewing these people. And then I had enough information for a book. And, over time, now, they didn't know I was black. I'd have my white secretary, and only reason I mention her color is not because I care. I could care less.
Right.
It plays into my story. I figured if I call these people, they might recognize in my voice that I'm black. I'm not talking to you, click. But I knew if he called them, they would know she's white.
Right.
And they would not automatically assume that this white woman is working for a black man. And so that might increase the odds that they would grant me the interview. And then obviously when we get together, they can see that I'm black and they can decide right then and there if they want to talk to me. Now, the first guy, Roger Kelly, I was told not to fool with him, that he would kill me. And I was told this by the guy in the $Silver Dollar Lounge. That was his Grand Dragon, and he said, Daryl, do not fool with Roger Kelly. And he made me promise him that I would not tell Roger Kelly where I got his personal information from.
Right.
So, I agreed to that. And so, of course, when Roger Kelly showed up to my interview, he was shocked. And some of these guys that Mary, my secretary, called, they invited me over to their house, not knowing that I'm black.
Here comes Daryl. Guess who's coming to dinner? It's Daryl.
And Scott, what was really crazy? I'm doing all this in between band gigs, right?
I could only imagine.
So my, if we had to go out of town or something, the band would all, if we played a local gig, everybody would just show up at the gig, right? But if we go out of town, Ocean City or Pennsylvania or whatever, the band would come to my house, park their cars, and everybody get in my van, and we all go together.
Right.
Okay, so on my way to a lot of these gigs, or on the way home, either way, I'd be stopping by some Klansman's house, stopping by a rally.
I know this to be true.
And my band was like, the band was freaking out. They said, Daryl, I'll just meet you at the gig. I don't want to ride with you.
I'm going to tell a story here, too, because I know this. I've heard the other side of it because our friend Dave Chappell, who used to play with me, told me, Daryl, he goes, Daryl says, you don't want to ride in the van, ride with me in the Cadillac. Daryl had this nice Cadillac, and of course they were going to Ocean City from DC, and somewhere on the Eastern Shore, the car starts acting up, and Daryl goes, and Dave is a nervous type a little bit anyway. And he's like, Daryl, the car is making a noise. And so Daryl says, don't worry, I got a friend who can help us out. And he pulls up to this house and Dave sees all this like hoods and like whatever. He knew what was up. He knew it was like a Klan guy. And I think he was totally freaking out.
So you got some Klan guy to fix your car?
Yeah, he goes,
absolutely.
The guy wouldn't take his money. He just, no problem, Daryl, it's just your radiator or whatever. Let me just patch it up for you. No problem to see you again, buddy. And Dave is, like eyes as big as saucers.
It's all about, Bob, it's all about building relationships, man.
Well, let me tell you something, Daryl. Biden needs to hire you as the national
race relations czar.
Race relations czar. That's right. Exactly right.
So this guy, Roger Kelly, he was the Grand Dragon of the Klan. Now, let me tell you a very interesting story. Okay, Mary and I got this hotel room right above the $Silver Dollar Lounge in Frederick, and he was due to come there at 5:15. On a Sunday afternoon.
Right.
Now, Mary and I got the room several hours before the meeting time. All right. And I sent her down the hallway with some money to get some soda pop out of the machine. So she got the soda pop, put it in the ice bucket, filled it with ice. I had no idea what this man was going to do. I was told he would kill me if I fooled with him. But I was going to be hospitable.
Right.
Offer him a cold beverage. All right. So she got all that worked out. And so then we just sit around killing time. The reason I got there early is because whenever the Klan is going to bring one of their leaders somewhere, they send out scouts in advance to check it out.
Oh, I see.
I didn't want me to be in the lobby or something and the scouts see hear my name or something.
Right.
Checking in and word gets back. So that's why we got there super early. Well, anyway, so we're just killing time in the room, and the way the room just happened to be, if you are standing in the hallway by the door of the room looking in, you cannot see who's in the room. You have to come through the door, walk around the corner to your right, and then there's the room.
Okay.
So I took the lamp table, a little small table, took the lamp off, put the table in the most obscure corner of the room. And I put a chair on one side for Mr. Kelly, a chair on this side for me. And I had a little black canvas bag by my chair, which contained a cassette recorder, which I set in the middle of the table, had some blank cassettes in the bag, and a copy of the Bible, because the Ku Klux Klan claims to be a Christian organization.
Right.
And they claim that the Bible preaches racial separation. Now, I'm a Christian. I've read the Bible. I've never seen that in there. So I want to be able to, reach down, pull out my Bible and say, here, Mr. Kelly, please show me chapter and verse where it says blacks and whites must be separate. So I'm all prepared, right? So we wait right on time to the minute, 5:15, knock, knock, knock on the door. I'm seated at the table where you can't see me until you come in the room. Mary hops up, runs around the corner, opens the door. In walks what is known as the Grand Nighthawk. Nighthawk in Klan terminology means bodyguard.
Right.
Grand means state bodyguard. So bodyguard to the Grand Dragon. Like an Imperial Nighthawk would be the bodyguard to the Imperial Wizard. So in walks this Nighthawk. He's wearing military camouflage, that red circle, white cross patch, the blood drop right there, the letters KKK here, embroidered on his cap, it said Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. And over here, he had a semi-automatic handgun in a holster. He comes walking in. Mr. Kelly is walking directly behind him in a dark blue suit and tie. And the Nighthawk turned the corner and saw me and just froze in his tracks. And Mr. Kelly did not realize that his Nighthawk had stopped short. So Mr. Kelly bumped into him and knocked him forward. So now they both are stumbling around trying to regain their balance. And they're like looking all around the room. And I'm just sitting there at the table, like looking at them. And I could read their faces like a highway billboard sign. They were thinking, they were thinking, did the desk clerk give us the wrong room number, or is this an ambush, or what? And I saw the apprehension. So I stood up and I went like this to show I had nothing in my hands.
Yes.
And I walked forward, put my right hand out, and I said, "Hi, Mr. Kelly, I'm Daryl Davis." He shook my hand. And the Nighthawk shook my hand. So far, so good. I said, "Please, come on in, gentlemen. Please have a seat." So Mr. Kelly sat down, and the Nighthawk stood at attention to his right. And before I could sit down, Mr. Kelly asked me for some identification. I gave him my driver's license. And he says, "Oh, you live on such and such street in Silver Spring." Now, that had me concerned. Why was he reading my street? All he needs to do is look at my picture, look at my name, look at me, match it up. And here he is calling off my address. And so I didn't want him to think, that was okay. So I said to him, I said, "Yes, Mr. Kelly, that is where I live, and you live at," and I named his house number and his street to let him know that I also had his address. So if you visit me, I'm going to visit you. So, we're going to confine all this visiting to this motel room. That's what I was implying by reciting his address. So, I didn't realize that at the time. I had no reason to worry about him knowing my address. It was pure coincidence. He recognized my street because one of his members lives right down the road here, but 2 neighborhoods over, and my street runs into that neighborhood. Anyway, that guy is in prison now, that Klansman for a hate crime. Anyway, we got to talking, right? And, we're just talking along. And every time I would reach down, because Mr. Kelly said something about the Bible says, I'd reach down to pull out the Bible, or if my cassette recorder ran out of tape, I'd reach down into my bag to pull out a fresh cassette. Every time I reached like this, the Nighthawk reached like this. And after a while, he realized there was no threat in the bag, and everything was cool. And he relaxed. I went in and out of the bag. He didn't move. So after an hour into this conversation, we're just talking casually, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there was this short, very quick noise that went like, shh. That was it. It was all over. And we all jumped because it was sudden, out of nowhere. And I flew out of my chair and hit the table. And because I'm getting ready to come across that table. And I knew that Mr. Kelly had made this noise. I had no idea what this noise was. It was so fast and so short that my ear could not discern what it was. But I knew that he made it. How did I know that? Because I didn't make it. So if you don't do something, you blame it on somebody else. So and because I could not figure out what it was, I became fearful, and I feared for my life.
Right.
Well, first of all, I'm a black guy. I'm sitting here with the head of the Klan from Maryland, and I'm told that he would kill me if I fool with him. So I had gone into survival mode. And when you go, when you fear for your life, you go into survival mode. And in survival mode, you can only do like one of four things. Some people, they pass out, they faint, because the fear is so great, their brain cannot process it, and it shuts down, and they just they pass out. I don't do that. Other people, their muscles will constrict and tighten up, and they'll freeze. That's called paralysis by fear. They can't move. I don't do that either. The third thing people will do is to run away. That's your best option. As quickly as you can, separate yourself from the source of your fear. Get away from it. I would have chosen that option had it been available, but you cannot outrun a bullet in a motel room. I was not armed. The only person who I knew for sure who was armed was the Nighthawk. I could see his gun on his hip. So I didn't have a weapon. Mary didn't have a weapon. So your fourth option is to do what's called a preemptive strike. Get them before they get you. And that's what I was going to do. I hit the table. I'm getting ready to dive across that table, grab the Nighthawk, grab Mr. Kelly, and slam them down to the ground and disarm the Nighthawk in order to protect myself and my secretary. All right? When I hit the table, I'm looking right into Mr. Kelly's eyes. I didn't say a word. I knew he could read my eyes. My eyes were saying to him, "What did you just do?" Well, he didn't say a word to me. I could read his eyes. His eyes were asking me the same question. What did you just do? And the Nighthawk had his hand on the handle. He never drew the gun. He had his hand on the butt of the gun. He's looking back and forth between both of us like, what did either one of y'all just do? Well, Mary realized what had happened. Mary is sitting on top of the dresser to my left because there were no more chairs. She began explaining it to us when it happened again. The ice in the ice bucket next to her had begun melting, and the cans of soda were shifting down the ice. That was it, And we all began laughing at how ignorant we all had been. But this was a teaching moment, okay? The learning would come later, but this was a teaching moment. And the lesson taught is this: all because some foreign, underscore, circle, highlight the word foreign, entity of which we were ignorant, that being the bucket of ice, cans of soda, we'd long forgotten about that. All because of some foreign entity of which we were ignorant had entered into our comfort zone, unbeknownst to us, via the noise that it made, we became fearful of each other. Ignorance breeds fear. We fear those things of which we are ignorant. If you do not keep that fear in check, that fear in turn will escalate and breed hatred, because we hate the things that frighten us. If you do not keep that hatred in check, that hatred in turn will escalate and breed destruction. We want to destroy the things that we hate. Why? Because they frighten us. But guess what? At the end of the day, they may have been harmless and we were simply ignorant. So we saw that whole chain almost unravel to completion, the last component being destruction. Had the Nighthawk drawn his gun and shot somebody, namely me or my secretary, or had I pounced across the table and hurt one of them, trying to preserve our lives, So it stopped short of that. However, both you and Bob did see exactly what I'm talking about, that chain unraveled to full completion on August 12th, 2017, in the city of Charlottesville, Virginia, at a large white supremacist rally. On August 12th, 2017, there was a lot of ignorance in Charlottesville. There was a lot of fear in Charlottesville. There was a lot of hatred in Charlottesville. And what did it culminate in? It culminated in destruction when a white supremacist got inside his vehicle and tried to murder as many counter-protesters as he could by driving his vehicle full force into the crowd. He succeeded in injuring 20 people and murdering one young lady named Heather Heyer. So ignorance breeds fear, fear breeds hatred, hatred breeds destruction. All right. So anyway, we got through that. We all laughed, and there were no more problems. We continued with the conversation, the interview, and that was that. So I began seeing Mr. Kelly on a regular basis, and I would invite him down to my house. He would come down to my house. The Nighthawk would come. The Nighthawk would sit on my couch next to him. Sometimes the Nighthawk would get bored and pull out his gun and twirl it on his finger like this while Mr. Kelly and I are talking, right? So, and then, this went on for 2 years. Mr. Kelly and I would even have lunch or dinner right here where I'm sitting right now at my dining room table. This is the head of the Klan, right? Inside a black man's house, eating a black man's food, or we would, go out to a restaurant and have dinner. Within a year's time, he was coming down to my house by himself. He trusted me that much. He didn't need the Nighthawk, right? And this went on for 2 years. He never invited me to his house, right? After 2 years, he got promoted from Grand Dragon state leader to Imperial Wizard, national.
Whole country, okay.
Yeah. So he began inviting me to his home at that time. I went to his house. He showed me his Klan den where he'd have his meetings. I take pictures for my book, take some more notes, things like that. He began inviting me to Klan rallies. I'd go to these Klan rallies, watch them parade around the cross, set it on fire and salute it and give speeches and stuff. And this went on, for a while. And I was still traveling the country, meeting other Klan leaders and going to some of their rallies. Some of them would talk to me. Some of them didn't want to talk to me. Some of them wanted to fight me and we'd fight. I put a couple in the hospital. I put some in jail, for putting their hands on me. But for the most part, those violent episodes were few and far between.
Well, how did Mr. Kelly try during that 2 or 3 year period when you were getting to know him? Did he try to rationalize his hatred of black people?
Oh, absolutely.
What was his basis for it?
All right, let me give you an example, okay? Understand something. One's perception is one's reality. You cannot change anybody's reality. What you can do is offer them a better perception.
Right.
If they resonate with your perception, they will change their own reality, okay? So I'm sitting here talking to Mr. Kelly. How can you hate me? You don't even know me, Mr. Davis, black people are prone to crime. And, this is evidenced by the fact that there are more blacks in prison than white people. Now, what he is saying is true. There are more blacks in prison than whites. So he is looking at the data and making the analogy, well, if there are more blacks in prison than whites, blacks must be more prone to crime.
Right.
Okay, but he's not considering the imbalance in our judicial system. Put more blacks in prison, right? Okay, and then he would go on to say, now I'm just listening. I'm not pushing back. I'm just listening.
This is a great spot to take a break and pay a couple of bills, and then we'll be back.
And he goes on to say that black people are inherently lazy. We don't want to work. We prefer to scam the government welfare system. We always have our hands out for a freebie, program or whatever. And then he says that black people are born with a smaller brain than white people. And the larger the brain, the more capacity for intelligence. The smaller the brain, the lower the IQ. And he said that this is evidenced by the fact that every year consistently, black high school students score lower than white high school students on the SATs. Again, what he is saying is true. This is true. The data shows that. All right. But he's not considering
that their schools are a lot shittier.
Exactly. Where do most black kids go to school? Right. The inner city. Where do most white kids go to school? The suburbs. We know inner city schools are not funded equally as suburban schools. They don't have the up-to-date facilities, textbooks, or teachers. I will guarantee you, black kids who go to school in the suburbs score just as high, if not higher, than some white kids. White kids who go to school in the inner city score just as low, if not lower, than some black kids. All right. It has absolutely nothing to do with one's skin color or the size of one's brain, but it has everything to do with the quality of the educational system in which that child is enrolled. But he's not considering that. He's just seeing the data, right? So I'm just sitting back listening to him. And then, I let him get it all out. And then I said, well, Mr. Kelly, I don't have a criminal record. And I'm as black as anybody you've ever seen. I've never been on welfare. As far as my brain size goes, I've never measured my brain size, but I'm sure it's the same size as anybody else's brain. And as far as my SAT scores go, I went to college. I have a bachelor's degree. Now, I know this guy just barely made it out of high school.
Right.
Yeah. In his face. I know I have more intelligence or education in my little finger than he and his whole clan put together. all right? But I'm not going to throw that in his face because his wall will go up.
Right.
So I'm just defending myself. And that causes him to listen and think about that. And so over time, things like that began to chip away at his ideology. And shortly thereafter, Mr. Kelly quit the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, wow.
He renounced it, okay? And when he did, he gave me his robe and hood. Take a look right here. You see that robe and hood? Let me see. There it is, okay? That's the robe of the Imperial Wizard. And here is his hood.
Unbelievable.
Wait a minute.
This is the hood. This is the mask.
Okay, hold it there for a minute. I'm going to take a screenshot.
I'll send you some pictures.
Okay, fine. But I still want to take a screenshot of this.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what year was it that he renounced that? Is approximately
Right around 99, in 99, beginning of 2000.
because really, I know and when did your book come out?
97.
Okay, so
And,
what
I was going to say, I have tons of this stuff.
Daryl, there's one thing I wanted to ask you while you were talking. When you went to the first Klan rally when they burned the cross, what went through your mind?
This is surreal. This is just absolutely, surreal. I've seen movies of it. I've seen pictures of it. But, being there and seeing these people really buying into this, I mean, it was like a brainwashing for them.
Yeah.
It was just, like, oh my God, I'm in the twilight zone here.
Did you feel like there was? I just cannot freaking imagine what must have been going through your mind. I mean, to say it's surreal is one thing, but to say that, I mean, how is it that people could actually do? And you're sitting there watching this as a
guest of the Imperial Wizard.
as a black guy. I mean, oh my Lord. I mean,
I guess the question I would have really is, and I really admire what you've done, and I do believe people's minds are changed one person at a time. And we were talking again. On some of the episodes we have as our co-host the former Governor Jim Florio, who's done some similar things. He was able to get gun control legislation passed. Mm-hmm. He was able to get an entirely Republican controlled that had the ability to override his veto legislature in New Jersey. Not one of them voted to do it because he went on a grassroots mission to convince people to call their legislatures. And one of the things he talks about is the need to apply new solutions.
Absolutely.
To the problem, because what I've seen happen, I mean, I guess for me, the things you've done, the fact that we had a black president, I was sort of lulled into a false sense of security about the fact that things seemed to be heading the right direction in terms of race relations. And I was living in a little bit of a bubble too, because I lived in McLean. My kid went to Thomas Jefferson High School, which was a magnet school that was filled with black kids, Chinese kids, Indian kids, and they were all friends. They didn't seem, but we're talking about people who live in a rarefied, breathing that rarefied air. And then, a couple years later, Donald Trump gets elected. The internet seems to have provided, but one of the themes of our show is looking at how technology is affecting these big trends. And to me, what it has done is it's enabled a bunch of racists and people with extreme views who were like in sort of isolated pockets to come together, and they produce disinformation, and they try to, and they get kids involved in it when they're impressionable and young. They look for disaffected, young people or other people, just disaffected people who want to hate something, because whatever their lot in life is, they want to blame it on somebody else. People blame their troubles on someone else. The fact that I don't have a job, I blame it on immigrants. The fact that I don't have this, I blame it on black people or someone else who doesn't look like me. So where are we today? What's the answer today? I mean, what did you think when you saw those people storming into the Capitol?
Oh, I knew that. I've been preaching that for years, man. Let me explain. Well, before I explain that to you, let me just show you something. Can I share this? Can you give me permission to share the screen?
Sure. Share screen.
You know how to do that, Bob?
Yeah, I just did it.
Okay. So it says the host has disabled participant screen sharing. Yeah, try it again.
Share.
Participant screen sharing.
Hang on a second.
We don't have the budget for any technical staff here. Obviously.
No.
I'm worse than Bob.
Yeah, wait a minute. I'm on preferences, security.
If you go to my name over there, and then you click on it or whatever, it will show make me a co-host or host.
Oh, that's right. I got to make you a co-host. All right, hold on a second. Make host. There we go. Change host.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, you see that?
Yeah.
Right.
Let me just slide down here. I've been doing this for 37 years. There is about 28 years ago in Frederick, Maryland, at the end of a rally.
Wow.
Okay, here is state of Missouri about 5 years ago, also towards the end of a rally. I gave a Klansman my cell phone, said, take a picture of me. So he did. Okay, now I'm going to show you this little clip here. You're going to see Roger Kelly. All right. Let's see. Let me back up a second. There. What do I do at these Klan rallies? I talk to people, man. I'm a firm believer that a missed opportunity for dialogue is a missed opportunity for conflict resolution. All right. So when I first came on that rally ground, that guy you see facing me with the green cross on his mask, he threatened me. And now every year since then, he sends me a Christmas present. Yeah. The guy to my left there with the rebel flag on his sleeve, he was the Imperial Wizard at the time. He was murdered a couple years ago. All right, so let me show you this clip. I'm going to show you a clip of Roger Kelly's rally. CNN did this. And listen to what he says. He says, even though he and I would do different things together, it did not change his views on the Klan, because his views on the Klan had been cemented in his mind for years. He also went on to say that he believes in separation of the races. But listen towards the end what he says about respect. And then listen to what the two CNN news desk anchor people have to say. They call me strange or something. Can you hear it?
This is CNN.
Yeah.
Welcome to this final hour of CNN Sunday Morning. I'm Bob Kane, and today for Miles O'Brien.
Good morning to you all. I'm Joey Chun.
Friendship can transcend all kinds of boundaries.
Just look at us. And two men in Washington area are showing that even an African-American man and a member of the Ku Klux Klan can find common ground. CNN's Carl Rochelle reports.
Daryl Davis plays a hot piano. It's part of the show, and it makes him stand out. also stands out here. Davis is one of the few African Americans you will ever find attending a KKK rally. More than attending, he is welcome.
I got more respect for that black man than I do you white niggers out there.
It's been a tough day for the Klan. Their Maryland rally found many local residents rejecting the message of white separatism. After it's over, Daryl Davis hangs around backstage with his friend, Klan wizard Roger Kelly. It's not unusual for blacks and whites to be friends, but it is unusual to find a black man and a Klan leader chatting pleasantly over an orange soda after a Klan rally. The relationship started over a book Davis was writing. His secretary set up an interview with Roger Kelly, but didn't tell him Davis was black. They talked and talked some more. Davis learning about the Klan, Kelly learning about Davis.
We get to know one another and we do different things, it hasn't changed my views about the Klan, because my views on the Klan's been pretty much cemented in my mind for years.
Kelly and his Klan friends go to hear Davis and his band. And Davis goes to their rallies.
I sat on the front row and listened to each Klansman speak. Some things I agreed with, other things I did not agree with.
Davis thinks that his presence promotes badly needed understanding.
Hate stems, I believe, from fear of the unknown, and I think this is all across the board, regardless of whether it's a Klansman or anything else.
But he has no illusions about the Klan. If he did, his friend would be quick to disabuse them.
And I believe in separation of the races. I believe that's in the best interest of all races.
Does he really? Or has friendship transcended the color barrier? Listen to Kelly at a Klan rally.
I will follow that man to hell and back, because I believe in what he stands for and he believes in what I stand for. A lot of times we don't agree with everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me. And I'll respect him to sit down and listen to him.
The strange relationship of a KKK wizard and his black buddy. In Washington, I'm Carl Rochelle, CNN Sunday Morning.
Strange. Good adjective, strange.
Certainly that.
Okay. So you heard Roger Kelly say that even though he and I would do different things together, it did not change his views on the Klan because they had been cemented in his mind for years, and how he believes in separation of the races. But at the end, you heard him say that he respected me. What's that all about? I'm a black guy. He's the imperial wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. He said, we may not agree on everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me, and I respect him to sit down and listen to him. Very important, very important. Like I said, a missed opportunity for dialogue is a missed opportunity for conflict resolution. Understand something. I am not a racist. I'm not a separatist, a supremacist, a nationalist, any of those things, all right? I did not respect what Roger Kelly had to say.
Right.
I simply respected his right to say it. And in exchange, he respected my right to voice my opinions, all right? So we listened to each other, and that is the key, having that conversation. People say, I don't want to talk to him, he's a supremacist or whatever, a nationalist, That's not the way to do it. You will hear things you don't want to hear. You will hear things that you don't believe in. But you know what? You cannot address anybody's issue if you don't understand what it is. I needed to find out, why was he that way? What brought him to that point? Just like, you're trying to find out what brought me to the point of being a musician who plays with Chuck Berry to going to a Klan rally. You're curious, all right? So, exactly. So it's that, when you have those conversations, you find out that you want the same things as anybody else wants. And so those conversations is what broke down Roger Kelly and ended up with me, getting his robe and hood right there.
Well, how can we take that and the lessons you've learned and the experience you've had
I'm going to tell you.
And apply it to today?
Okay, listen. Like I said, I've been to 57 different countries on 6 continents. No matter how far I go from this country, my own country, whether it's right next door to Canada or Mexico or halfway around the globe, no matter how many different kinds of people I may meet who don't look like me, who don't speak my language, who don't worship the way I do or practice the culture I do, when I get back home here, I always conclude one thing, the same thing. We all are human beings. And as such, we all want the same basic 5 things in our lives. We all want to be loved. We all want to be respected. We all want to be heard. We all want to be treated fairly. And we all want the same things for our families as anybody else wants for their families. And as long as we apply those 5 core values to whatever situation we may find ourselves in, a different society, a different culture with which we are unfamiliar, if we apply those 5 principles, I will guarantee you your navigation will be much more smooth, much more positive. Now, of course, there are always going to be people who will be hateful and racist and violent, and they will go to their grave that way. But if you employ those 5 principles, chances are you will navigate a lot smoother. And you heard Roger Kelly say, in that one sentence, he said, we may not agree on everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me, and I respect him to sit down and listen to him. Those are his words, okay? He just named 3 of those principles. Respect. He said, I listened to him. I allowed him to be heard. He listened to me. I listened to him. It was a fair exchange. I treated him fairly. Those principles are what broke him down, why I have that robe and hood today, because now he doesn't believe in the bullshit that he was saying.
Right. I think, too, there's something to the fact that sometimes people don't want their mind, they don't want to be around. The reason they don't want to be around people who are, if it conflicts with their preconceived notion, they just
right. They have surrounded themselves in an echo chamber.
It confuses them. You know what I mean? It really confuses them. And I've gone, I haven't gone to, KKK rallies, but I have been to one. I covered in Arkansas. This is an interesting point you were talking about.
I know the head of the Klan in Arkansas.
I was in Little Rock, Arkansas. It was about 1977. I just got to town. There was a huge Klan rally. And the thing that interested me, that caught me the most, was that the ACLU had gone to court for the Klan because the city, Little Rock, had such a tarnished image from all the racism of the city. They were trying to attract business. They didn't really want the Klan marching through town. It was an inconvenient reminder of the past,
Right.
And the ACLU went to court to get the Klan a permit to demonstrate.
Right, as they should.
Right, I agree. I agree.
There's one thing that struck me throughout this whole conversation, and that is that it's your music, Daryl. It's your music that began this whole rapprochement with the KKK.
Well,
if it wouldn't have been for your music, they wouldn't have come to see you.
That's right.
You wouldn't have had that conversation.
Right.
This would not have happened.
Look at Ray Charles refusing to perform. I mean, there were black entertainers. First of all, there's a famous incident.
Solomon Burke played at a Klan rally.
I didn't know that, but I was thinking about James Brown when Martin Luther King got shot, calming down people. Music was the first thing that was ever integrated. Am I wrong, Daryl? Really, the first time black people even slid in the side door, other than being waiters or servants of some kind, was they were performers. And somehow they were accepted. They were like, O.J. Simpson. There are plenty of people who are racist who somehow make an exception for O.J. or made one anyway.
Sports celebrities and actors and musicians. Yes.
Right. Exactly.
I was there. I was living in Massachusetts, in Belmont and Boston when that happened. Mayor Kevin White brought James Brown in to perform the night after King was assassinated.
Yeah.
I was there. But anyway, listen. Let me answer your question that you asked before I showed the video about where we are today and the Capitol storming and all that, and then I've got to run. But here's what's happening, guys. At the end, I've been saying this now for over 37 years that I've been doing this. You all know what the term white flight means, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. White flight barely exists today because anywhere you go, there's already somebody there who does not look like you. The color of the American landscape has changed so much that white flight is hard. It's hard to move to an all-white area now. All right?
That is true.
Yeah, and here, what the Klan and the neo-Nazis and the alt-right, they all tell me, because I know all these people, they say, Daryl, I don't want my grandkids to be brown. They call it the browning of America, or white genocide through miscegenation. They're concerned, they're not concerned about immigrants being here illegally from Canada or the UK or Eastern Europe.
No, they're not. As long as they're white, they're
exactly.
fine.
Okay, exactly.
Come on in, it's okay.
Here's what's happening, guys. When I was a kid, when we all were kids, because we're all pretty much the same generation, when we all were kids, the black population in this country was 12%. Native Americans, 1%. Hispanic people, right around 2%. Asians, right around 3%. All right? White people were 84, 86%. Today, black people remain at 12%, 12.9, almost 13%. We haven't grown. Native Americans remain at 1%. Asians have doubled. They're almost at 6%. Hispanics have really increased. They're at 17 point something percent. So if you take just black people at 12% and Hispanic or Latino people at 17%, just those two groups right there, that alone, 17 and 12, make 29% non-white, let alone the Asians and the Native Americans, right? This is happening. This country was built on a two-tier society, white supremacy and slavery. And through the decades, we progressed like this, maybe like this, but never like this, okay? Well, guess what? Today, according to the US Census Bureau, you can Google it, white people in this country are only 59%. It is well predicted in the year, hear me out, in the year 2042, which is 21 years from now, this country for the first time in US history will be 50-50. 50% white, 50% non-white, meaning black, Asian, Latino, whatever, right?
Right.
Okay? While there are a ton of white people who welcome that and say, hey, I don't have a problem with that. That's evolution, no big deal. There is a segment of our population that is freaking out about that.
Well,
because when you have sat on the throne of power for 402 years, I got here 402 years ago in 1619 as a slave, right? When you have sat on the throne of power for 402 years, you don't want to get off. Look at our last president. He was only on the throne of power for 4 years. He didn't want to get off.
No, he never wanted to get off.
He wanted to overturn the election, all right? So they are freaking out about this change. And between 2045 and 2050, this country will be white minority, all right? And that is what is freaking them out, all right? So that's why you see them storming the Capitol. And their slogans, take our country back. We're going to take our country back. That was a Klan slogan.
Right.
From 1954, when Brown versus the Board of Education desegregated schools. And Klan rallies were all over the place saying, I'm not going to let my little white boys and girls go to school with little niggers. We're going to take our country back, meaning back to segregation. And that was 1954. And then in 2009, we heard that same slogan by a new political party called the Tea Party. We hadn't heard of a Tea Party since Boston in 1776 or whatever, right? So now we got this new political party called the Tea Party, and their slogan was, take our country back. We're going to take our country back. And I asked those people, they came to DC and marched on the Capitol in 2009. I asked them, I said, why are you all using a Klan slogan? Oh, no, we don't mean it like that. I said, well, you are aware it's a Klan slogan, right? Well, yeah, but that was something different. I said, wait a minute. I said, you're saying take our country back, but you're leaving it open-ended. You don't say take it back from who? You don't say take it back to what? What we mean is, see, Obama had just been elected, right? They said, what we mean, Mr. Davis, is we're going to take our country back from the Democrats. We're going to take it back to Republican rule. Okay, that's fine. I can live with that. All right, but say that. Close the gap. Don't leave it open-ended. But I want to remind you that Jimmy Carter was a Democrat. Bill Clinton was a Democrat. Where was the Tea Party then? Where was Take Our Country Back then? Now all of a sudden you got a black guy in the White House and you all are screaming, we're going to take our country back.
Sure, that's a coincidence.
Exactly. And now, and then Trump telling everybody, we're going to march to the Capitol, we're going to take back our country. You can't show weakness, you must show strength. And all this other nonsense. David Duke at the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, what did he say? We're here to take back our country. We're going to take our country back. All right? That, and so now you take that slogan and take Donald Trump's slogan, make America great again. Put them together. Take our country back, make America great again.
Yeah.
It spells it out. Okay. So
make America white again.
Exactly. So now, when I first started this stuff, you only had like about 3 different groups. You had the Klan, some neo-Nazis, some white power skinheads. Today, you got the Klan, the neo-Nazis, the white power skinheads, the Proud Boys, the 3%ers, the Boogaloo Boys, the Oath Keepers, on and on and on and on. All right, and they're all coming. Come join us. We're going to take our country back. We're going to get rid of those immigrants, send them back to where they belong. We're going to build that wall. On and on and on. And then because people are fearing that their Aryan population is going away. They're being erased. All right, so that's what it means. Take our country back. We will not be replaced. That kind of thing. All right, so people out of fear go and join these groups. But when the group fails to take the country back, some of these people say, you know what? If the Klan can't do it or the neo-Nazis can't do it, I'll do it myself. And that's when they go solo and they walk into a black church in South Carolina, boom, 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 and shoot down 9 black people conducting Bible study. Or they walk into the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh and murder 11 Jews. Or the Walmart in El Paso, Texas, and kill 23 Mexican people. These are called lone wolves. You saw a lone wolf a couple months ago. He came into Wisconsin from Illinois, a 17-year-old guy, Kyle Rittenhouse, and shot 3 counter-protesters with his gun, killing 2 of them and blowing off the 3rd guy's arm, and then went back home and got a bottle of water from the cops. All right? That's a lone wolf, 17 years old. As we get closer and closer to 2042, we're going to see more and more, unfortunately, of those lone wolves. All right. Now we have intelligence operatives who can infiltrate those groups. Like, for example, you take that group that was going to kidnap and murder the governor of Michigan. All right. We already had operatives in there. That's how that plot got foiled. All right. But while our intelligence agencies can put some of their people who fit the part into those groups to gather intelligence, you cannot infiltrate a lone wolf. That's only one person.
Right.
So we're going to get closer and closer to 2042. We're going to see more and more of these lone wolves. And every time, they raid that person's house, what do they find? A cache of automatic weapons that they're stockpiling for the race war, what they call RAHOWA, 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 which stands for Racial Holy War, otherwise known as the race war. So, we must be vigilant. You remember back in 1999, everybody was freaking out about the turn of the century, the year 2000. Yeah, right. My computers are going to stop working. My VCR stopped working. The banks are going to shut down. The end of the world, apocalypse, right? People were literally taking their money out of the banks, hiding it under their mattress, burying it in their backyard. 2042 is the white supremacist Y2K. And we're going to see more and more of that stuff. So we got to be vigilant. We got to have these conversations.
I think on an optimistic note, I will say this. And when we were talking to Florio, we kind of got to this, that I started thinking back. I was really depressed after the Capitol thing. I was really depressed. And of course, then Biden did win the election, and that was a good thing. But I was still just disturbed about the way things are today. And I realized, really, if you think back 100 years, I mean, women, it wasn't that long ago that women didn't vote. It was in my lifetime. I grew up in Alabama, and the schools had just been integrated, and there was busing, and there was a race riot in my high school. We have come a long way. We have
a long way to go.
Because I got to say, I never thought in my lifetime that I would see a black president.
Right.
I thought maybe a vice president. Maybe.
Well, and here's the thing. Yes, we have come a long way, no question about it. But we still have a long way to go.
Right.
And this is why we can't stop here. We cannot be complacent. We have to come together, because the best way for an enemy to defeat us is to divide and conquer. Well, they don't have to worry about the divide part. We got that handled.
Oh yeah, we do. But I mean, really though, every time there's been an advance, it's been preceded by turmoil.
Well, yes, I mean,
integration didn't happen without Selma. It didn't happen without Birmingham.
Because human beings are not creatures. Human beings are creatures of habit. They're not creatures of change. So anytime there's slight change, a little bump in the thing, there's going to be some upheaval, some civil unrest. But it's worth it because of the progress. But listen, guys, I really got to go. I got to jump on another one here.
Thank you, Daryl. Really, we appreciate you doing it. Hey, and let's find a way to play together sometime.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
I'm really serious. I'm serious. Come down here or I'll come up there. I'd love to play with you again.
The only thing you do is keep running to the temple. And the time. Come on, y'all, let's roll.
Copyright 2021. All rights reserved. Visit us at tempoandthetimes.com.